Hello, Huobi Nation. Welcome to Huobi Podcast. What is Huobi Podcast? Huobi Podcast will keep you updated on news and events in the cryptocurrency industry. We'll also invite some key influencers to provide their take on the industry, share their insights, and share their story on how they became a success, changing the world through blockchain technology. Our first guest is Erik Finman. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for tuning in.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special honor guest for tonight's show. His name is Erik Finman. He launched a satellite into space. He is Time's most influential teen, and also he is the youngest Bitcoin millionaire. Welcome to the show, Erik Finman. Welcome, Erik.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's great to be on. That was a very nice introduction.
Glad to have you, Erik. I've got a couple questions for you, and I know people know you as the youngest Bitcoin millionaire, but I would love to hear your short story about how you became that, the newbie to the success story that you are today.
Oh, well, thank you. So basically I got into Bitcoin. I was actually with my older brother, and we were at this protest at the Jefferson Memorial. Some people got arrested for dancing. It was very much like a Footloose like protest. So we were protesting that these people got arrested at the Jefferson Memorial, and it was a really fun protest. A bunch of really interesting types, and one of the customs of the protest actually was, you'd wear a shirt and kind of people would ask you about it, or you would ask people about their shirt. And it was actually like intense for just some people getting arrested for dancing this protest. There was, we were fine, the protesters, but, they sent a Black Hawk helicopter with like a machine gun guy on the side, like it's Vietnam. And, they had like riot police on horseback. And I was like, oh God. And, in the middle of actually running from these people, some guy had, the Bitcoin B, the orange Bitcoin B on his shirt. And we were in the middle, like, running. And I was like, oh, what's that? And what's that on your shirt? Kind of just as a funny juxtaposition to just the moment. And he's like, oh, it's Bitcoin, man. It's going to end Wall Street, bro. And he like skirters off like, and we're like, oh, and then, we ran off, and me and my older brother, we went in and looked at it. It was about like 2011 or something. Bitcoin was at like $10 to $12, and we looked it up and thought, what, actually this is going to be the future. And it was something, it was on the fringe, kind of the internet of the early days. That was the fringe, and we were a little bit we were misfits and weirdos, and there was this, Bitcoin that, which was kind of, in the early days, it was for the misfits and weirdos. And I really liked that, and got into it. And I spent, my grandmother gave me gave all her grandkids $1,000, and I actually had tried to give it back, but she thought she was gonna go, I guess, or pass, and I was like, her parting gift. But thankfully, she's actually my only living grandparent, so she's still alive today. But so that was meant to go to my scholarship fund, but I did not put it into my scholarship fund. I instead, my brother helped me put into Bitcoin, and then it was just basically like a game for me every day, just trying to trade more and more and more and more, and that's what I did.
So now you're the official Bitcoin millionaire, right?
Yeah. And yeah, when I was 15, I ended up dropping out of high school. I had about $100,000 at this time. I loved education, but I hated school, and I wanted to start an ed tech startup. So I started an ed tech startup, moved to San Francisco when I was 15, just by myself, and 100K, and I eventually had sold that company and put that money back into Bitcoin, and and just kind of spent every day, trained more, and did a few projects from there.
Nice. So like basically got into Bitcoin by just chance, by seeing someone's t-shirt. That's a really interesting story.
I mean, that's how it all goes down sometimes,
Yeah, for sure. But like a lot of people don't know, like, why would someone put their money in Bitcoin versus all the other opportunities out there in the world? Like, why did you pick that other than you saw someone's t-shirt, you thought it was interesting, thought it was like something outlandishly different? Is there anything that really pinpointed you to put your money in it, other than those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really did see. I mean, we were there, we were tracking kind of me and my brother. We were little political people, and we were tracking other people trying to start currencies, and and trying to just be free. There's Zimbabwe printing $100 trillion at the time, and so we saw this could be this really interesting borderless currency, free from everything. And so that was really interesting. And two, just from a cultural element, we were, me, my brother and I, we were misfits and weirdos, and this was something, like I said, for the misfits and weirdos. So I feel like that was also appeal to it. It's the island of misfit toys, and then since it's grown into something way bigger and way more interesting, and it's grown out of that fringe quite a bit, and now you have big Silicon Valley money. But I remember those early days just as a little kid in that community, and it was a really beautiful time, and a really, at a time I grew up in Idaho, and very rural Idaho, and I don't know if I fit in, and I still don't know if I fit in, but at the even now, but at that time, it really did feel like I fit in, and I felt like I belonged.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, think about Bitcoin, the price has been everywhere. It's been from $100 to 20,000 to now it is like 6 or 7, something like that.
Hmm.
But like, obviously not financial advice, but like, what do you see the future price wise on Bitcoin, and like, why do you think it's going to go in that direction?
I see Bitcoin. I think it'll definitely, in my opinion, not financial advice, probably go over $20,000. Probably again. That's in my opinion, and I think it'll go. Whether it goes there forever, who knows? But I totally see it, in my opinion, going above all-time highs. So that'll be interesting. And I think they definitely got to fix the technology problem. I think you have it's a very controversial Bitcoin Cash, a Lightning Network, and a lot of smart people are working on fixing that scaling problem with Bitcoin. But I think as long as they fix that and fix that major problem, I think Bitcoin has a good future as long as they fix that. If not, then maybe not so good of a future. But yeah, probably gonna go over $20,000 again.
So like, I know you talked about cross-border payments, and the other money, like maybe being something locally not as well because the supply is not limited like Bitcoin.
Mhm.
But in 10 years, where do you see the use case for like cryptocurrency other than cross-border payments? Do you see anything else like kind of trending in the industry in the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting just to see, from a, what's beautiful about the space is like if ICOs get a little bit easier to do, was you can be totally remote and basically fund a completely open source project that's just open source on GitHub or something like that, and you can just be designers, programmers from all around the world that have never met each other, all working over Zoom or Slack or whatever on this open source GitHub project, and that normally wouldn't have a business model, but now with you being able to fundraise using kind of like clans coins or something, although that's not a cryptocurrency, being able to kind of actually fundraise off those kind of in-game or in-app tokens, that's where things wouldn't ordinarily have a sustainable business model, or things wouldn't ordinarily be able to get funding, but they have a little mini economy, and thus they can fundraise kind of basically off of that mini economy. That's so interesting to me. I feel like that's such an interesting application of things that would never get funded, or things that would ordinarily never have a business model that would work. Now you're able to raise funds. Obviously it's not so easy now because a lot of regulations and rules that maybe are from the past and don't necessarily apply to these new technologies. I feel like that's so interesting and fascinating that that's just the future of not just remote people that have never met each other, able to potentially become millionaires or even billionaires. People that never met each other on something that would ordinarily never get VC funding, and doesn't really have a kind of a traditional like subscription or Amazon like business model or something like that. Just by having an economy on this completely free open source thing, you're able to make money off that. And to me, that's just such an interesting prospect. Absolutely.
So one question I always get is whenever I tell people, I work for Huobi, is they always say, why would someone put their money in Bitcoin? I wanted to know, if someone ever comes up to you, hey, like, why should I put my money in Bitcoin? What do you say?
Just put money in Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously the talked about, borderless currency and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think, it's an opportunity to be a part of not just the cutting edge, but the bleeding edge. Being a part of this industry, I mean, it's really beautiful. And if you're smart about it, in my opinion, not financial advice, you can probably make some money off of it. And so I think from an investment perspective, in my opinion, it can be really good. I think from a borderless currency perspective, being really good. And like I said, you're just part of this wonderful culture of the misfits and weirdos. And I think that's why I would recommend getting into Bitcoin.
I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions and just like A or B, and let's just see what you say. Don't think too much.
Okay.
What's your favorite book?
Right now I'm reading a book that I really love, and the current book I'm reading is my favorite book. And right now it's the Power of Glamour. And I think that's just a really interesting book about kind of just really interesting marketing book. I absolutely find it fascinating. Probably not really that interesting to crypto people, but the Power of Glamour is a really interesting book.
Nice. And if you could meet Satoshi Nakamoto, would you want to meet him or would you not want to meet him?
Well, this ties into the Power of Glamour. Is he can never live up to the hype, no matter who he is. So or she, it's that's the thing. Is I guess I would meet him. Why not, right? But I would, never meet your role models. I believe is the phrase. Never meet your idols.
Sure, that's true. Like you never know what they'll be, and it's better to have like a legacy of something that you think about that person, right? Yeah, that's awesome. My last question is, let's say you have one thing that you want people to know about you, like your legacy. Like after this statement, that's all they're going to know about you. What would that one sentence be? Like, what do you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered for I want to be remembered just for I feel like doing good in the world, and maybe that sounds really cheesy, but what is the meaning of life if not to help others? I find every Christmas giving a gift is better than receiving it.
Time today, Erik. Again, Erik launched the satellite into space. Time's most influential teen, the youngest Bitcoin millionaire. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for going on the show.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, that about wraps it up. Huobi Nation, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Erik Finman, for being our special guest. And thanks to our sponsors, BlockFire and CoinMarketCap. That's episode 1. See you next time, Huobi Nation.